Hi everyone, good to see you again today. Today we have a very special guest who has a lot of experience in creating innovation in Asia and Hong Kong, and who I think will share his views on how Web3 is going to evolve in the Asia region, which I recently went to and came back from. So this is Joseph Chen, the Undersecretary for Financial Services in the Treasury of Hong Kong, and that basically means that he can define a lot of the ideas around how Hong Kong welcomes new technologies like blockchains and Web3. And so now I think we'll just try to think through some of those questions. So I think the first thing that might be useful, Joseph, is for you to set the stage of the history of Hong Kong as a financial hub and why that happened.
Great. Thank you, Sergey, and it's great to be here with all of you. Thank you for having me here. Well, first of all, Hong Kong as a position of financial hub, I would say that we are already a leading financial center in Asia. Well, by the way, my training was in investment banking, and I'm a chartered financial analyst. So instead of giving you a very cliche statement, I just share with you some figures, right? For equity markets, last year, we actually raised over 100 billion Hong Kong dollars through IPOs. It put us ranked number 4 in the world. Actually, number 1 and 2 Shanghai and Shenzhen, which are capital-controlled market in the mainland. Number 3 was Nasdaq, and number 4 was Hong Kong. And in talking about bonds, last year and for the 7 consecutive years, we are the biggest issuance and the rating center for Asia international bonds. And as a wealth and asset management center, our AUM stood at 4 trillion at the end of last year, grew by close to 30% over a 4-year period. And also we ranked number 1 in Asia in terms of insurance density as a cross-border wealth center by AUM as well. So I would say these figures can share with you where we stand and in terms of scale and also growth as a financial center. So one might ask, why Hong Kong? What make us in the leading position across these league tables? I think it down to our systems, or our core competitiveness. We offer free flow of capital. We have a free convertibility of Hong Kong dollars. We adopt a common law legal system. And the fact that we're in the center of Asia with the proximity to different locations. You fly to Beijing or Korea, it's like 3 hours or so. Down south to Singapore, 3.5 hours or so. And then we, of course, we have preferential access to the mainland market and the investors there as well. So it is an ideal place indeed for developing business in the traditional finance. And we do believe that it's also put us in an excellent position to help companies to prosper from developing digital assets as well.
Yeah, one of the unique things that I saw when I was in Hong Kong is that they actually have private bank issued money. So all Hong Kong dollars are issued not just by one central printer, but by 3 banks. So you can get a $20 Hong Kong dollar bill from HSBC, you can get a $20 Hong Kong dollar bill from Standard Chartered, or you can get a $20 Hong Kong dollar bill from the International
Bank of China? Yeah.
Bank of China, sorry, the Bank of China. So basically you have these 3 private banks generating private issued fiat currency, which that's possible because of the flexibility of the legal framework. So this is something I saw a few years ago, and even then I understood that this kind of very specific place called Hong Kong has a unique way of dealing with these kind of questions, of these financial questions that allow people to innovate, because I haven't seen other places where you can find private issued fiat money that's also accepted by the government. So what do you see happening in Asia and Hong Kong in regards to digital assets?
Well, of course, in general, I think Asia, everybody is very excited about the opportunities in digital assets and Web3. And in Hong Kong, for example, I think it was in April or so, we have the Web3 Summit in Hong Kong, where we have tens of thousands people coming over. So the vibrancy is definitely there. And indeed, in Hong Kong, over the last few years, we have already seen activities across virtual asset trading, issuance of STOs, NFTs, etc. From the government standpoint, we embrace the opportunities from digital assets. So in October last year, actually my bureau, the Financial Services and the Treasury Bureau, published a policy statement on development of virtual assets in Hong Kong. So it sets out our vision, approach, and future steps to facilitate what we call sustainable and responsible development of the virtual asset sector. I think our positioning in Hong Kong is very straightforward, right? We believe that virtual asset or digital assets are here to stay as an asset class. So as an international financial center and also a metropolis for innovation and technology, we need to embrace this megatrend of Web3 development, and we commit to transforming our city into a global Web3 and digital asset hub. And indeed, since the announcement of our policy address in October last year, we have already received interest from about 200 digital asset-related companies from mainland, from overseas, expressing interest to establish their presence in Hong Kong. In the last few years, we also worked together with our financial regulators to develop a comprehensive framework for the regulation of virtual asset trading activities under what we call the same activity, same risk, same regulation principle. Our new licensing regime for virtual asset service providers took effect in June this year already, and it aligns requirements for virtual asset exchange in terms of anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist financing, as well as investor protection to those currently applicable to traditional finance institutions. And we believe that with this regime, we actually can offer the licensed virtual asset exchanges the status and credibility to access a wider net of investors in the market. And of course, in Hong Kong, I think our facilitation goes beyond just policy statement or regulatory measure. A few things just to share quickly. One, in the budget announced by Financial Secretary of Hong Kong in February this year, we announced that we will allocate 50 million Hong Kong dollars to expedite the Web3 ecosystem, including business cooperation and frontier development. And also this year, we have set up a task force on promoting Web3 development. What's so special about this task force is that it's actually chaired by our financial secretary. So it shows you how much importance we attach to Web3 development. And this task force comprised not only the members from the government and regulators, but also from market participants. So we definitely value and want to keep track of the latest development of Web3 globally, and also then how to design the right policy framework going forward for the sustainable and responsible development of digital assets. The other thing I would like to highlight or mention is that we also have announced to set up a new 30 billion Hong Kong dollars, or about 3.8 billion US dollars equivalent, right, co-investment fund, which will be managed by the newly set up Hong Kong Investment Corporation. So with this new co-investment fund, it can inject greater impetus to our high-tech finance and innovation landscape to help different companies to prosper in Hong Kong and boost our economy as well.
Yeah, so the significance of these things, I think, really is there for a number of reasons. One is that there's this kind of legal framework where people can create these digital assets, and Web3 companies can conduct transactions even with banks, which, as we talked about over the past few days with the capital markets, is one of the requirements that you have for the value from the capital markets to flow into our industry, is a certain amount of clarity on how to do that, both between banks and between banks and Web3 companies. And Hong Kong is one of the first places in the world that I'm seeing that clarity start to take shape, and there being a real commitment to creating it so that these transactions can actually happen in a legally binding way, which is a requirement for all the value in banks to flow into our industry. And this is an example of some of those legal questions getting proactively resolved. And then the second big thing is that Hong Kong has kind of always been a gateway to China and the value and capital within China and the whole region, and it's been a hub for that. And so not only do you have a greater degree of legal clarity, but you also have large amounts of capital that can through that legal clarity, find their way into various digital asset, real-world asset tokens from banks, and various Web3, DeFi type things as well. So this also extends to DeFi and these other Web3 use cases, not just to banks. Great. So in terms of what the motivations are, so what are your motivations to create a Web3 hub in Hong Kong, and what parts of the economy do you think this will benefit?
Sure. Well, as I mentioned at the beginning, right, we are already leading various league tables in Asia in traditional finance. However, with the development of Web3 globally, the transition from platform-centric to individual-centric data and identity management will give birth to more new technologies and new business models that adapt to such demand. So in that context, we believe that Web3 will provide solutions to the current situation of data monopoly, privacy risks, and algorithmic discrimination, so on and so forth. So from us, as a traditional financial center, with the development of Web3, we believe that it will replace or displace many existing functions or product or service by traditional financial institutions. But in return, it will create a lot of new products and services. So if we, Hong Kong, want to maintain our leading positions in the financial sector, there's no choice. We have to embrace this. We have to make sure we capture this opportunity to stay ahead of the game. And it's not just a statement or not just a vision, but we do walk our talk. To give you an example, as you mentioned about of other type of finance as well, it's actually back in 2018, right, 5 years ago, we already rolled out what we call MIDAS, a motor insurance DLT-based authentication system. How it works is the government, our transport department, our police, and then the insurance companies, and also the motor insurance policy holders, they can use the system to increase the transparency and efficiency of the claim process for motor insurance, improve the efficiency, and also at the same time reduce the risk to frauds as well. Apart from that, let's say last year in our FinTech Week, Hong Kong FinTech Week, the government ourselves, we issue our own NFT to the participants as well. So we do want to show to the market that indeed, these digital assets, blockchain technology can be applied in different aspects, and we will play a part to lead by example. And in fact, even within the government, we have completed 4 pilot blockchain projects to explore the applicability and benefits of blockchain technology for different e-government services. These projects involve facilitating trademark transfer, optimizing procedures for preparing environmental impact assessment reports, improving pharmaceutical product traceability, and keeping track of company filing records as well. Last year, we just further launched a shared blockchain platform in the government, and we would follow up developing common service and reference programs modules across our own bureaus and departments in developing blockchain applications. So indeed, we do see the demand for digital assets to help transform or help take our financial service to the next level, and at the same time, we'll keep embracing this technology and different walks in life in Hong Kong as well.
Yeah, makes sense. So I think what I've understood from that is you feel that the appearance of Web3 to power financial services is kind of inevitable, and it's something that will happen no matter what, and it'll be a way that a portion of the world works, and Hong Kong's goal is to be a part of that Web3 world.
Yes.
And then you also, very interestingly for me, see that it's not only just tokenization or DeFi, it's actually insurance, it's a number of use cases that can basically benefit even the domestic economy.
Yes.
And be used as large use cases of their own, even beyond tokenization and kind of banking services. Does that sound right?
Yes, indeed. And if I may go a bit further, is that, as I mentioned, we are leading the way in different financial sectors, and there are a lot of applications that we can use, and we have done so. For example, we have been issuing government green bonds over the last few years as an initiative to develop green finance. And just in February this year, we issue our tokenized government green bond. As we know, this is the first government globally who issue tokenized green bond in the world. Not only we want to do that just to lead by example, we also want to share our experience. So we actually published a report sharing our findings, the process, the benefits, and the technical specs about our tokenization inaugural issuance, so that it will help the market to leverage on experience to do tokenization in the future as well. So I think definitely we do see there are many different ways that we can embrace this technology and help prosper our traditional financial services as well.
Right. I think I missed that. I have seen a lot of innovation about the actual HKMA and various Hong Kong governmental entities actually using blockchain technology to generate kind of government-approved tokenized things, which, once again, the thing that's really attractive and interesting to me is that there is private bank money that's been powering Hong Kong for, I think, decades, so for a very long time. And so now you can have, now you folks are tokenizing things also approved by the government. And so that's a kind of a very attractive and interesting pattern. But I understand the stuff you folks have done so far, and I definitely want to talk more about that. But one of the things I think I also want to get clarity on is how is Hong Kong going to make itself this Web3 hub going forward? What is Hong Kong's competitive advantage in regards to fostering this adoption of Web3 in Hong Kong and for it to be this hub?
Well, if I may, I draw back to the core competitors I mentioned at the outset, right? Free flow of capital and free convertibility of Hong Kong dollars. I think it sounds cliche to most of the Western economies, but if in Asia, you look at the crucial juncture in history, like the 98 Asian financial crisis, 2001 September 11 events, and 2008, the global financial tsunami, many other Asian economies, they would have control on capital flow or control on the convertibility of the local currencies. But Hong Kong, we have what we call the linked exchange rate system for 4 decades, operating very smoothly all along. And why we have this ability is 2 things. A, it's actually a constitutional commitment. It's printed in basic law. And secondly, our foreign reserve is standing at around $420 billion, which is around 1.8 times of the Hong Kong dollar monetary base. So that's the reason why we offer that free flow of capital and free convertibility, which could hardly be found in other Asian economies across a long history. Why I bring this up? Because that gives us the leeway, the flexibility to offer a very stable and predictable regulations and policies in virtual assets, right? When other jurisdictions will have concern about capital flow or so on and so forth, we never worry about that. And that's why you see that over the years, as I mentioned earlier on, we always have STOs, virtual asset trading activities in Hong Kong happening anyway. And when we impose the new regulations on virtual assets exchanges, we could spend years to consult the market and make sure it's a regime that we take into consideration of the market for future development of the industry. And I can also share with you our experience as well. We are never shy from being the pioneer in the fintech space. We were among the first jurisdictions that offer licenses to virtual banks. We are among the first jurisdictions globally to offer license to virtual insurers as well. So being the pioneer to take the lead is something we have the experience, and we won't be shy from doing so. And indeed, we will continue to leverage on our leading position in traditional finance. For example, in December last year, we started to have virtual asset futures ETFs, exchange-traded funds, listed and traded on Hong Kong Stock Exchange. And now we have 3 of those. And we will continue to explore ways how, when we see traditional finance and digital assets have connection or so, we will find a way to facilitate that in a responsible and sustainable manner. And you mentioned about our competitive advantage. Apart from what I mentioned about the background, I think one thing worth mentioning is the fact that in Asia, by ranking, by AUM, we are the 2nd largest hub for private equities. The biggest is mainland China, but again, it's capital controlled. And also by population of ultra high net worth individuals, right? Individuals who have more than $30 million worth. I think quite a lot of you are of that bracket. Hong Kong has the biggest population in the world. We are ahead of New York, which is 2nd, and ahead of London, which is the 3rd. And Hong Kong with over 12,000 of those. So what it means is we offer a wide pool of potential investors to the fintech companies, digital asset companies, or to the underlying service as well. And traditionally, we are the location where East meets West, so that we can help the fintech or digital asset companies from different locations to set up in Hong Kong and penetrate to the Asia market. And also the fact that we have the proximity and also the access to the mainland market, and also the talents who understand the mainland market, then you can use Hong Kong as a platform to tap into the talents, to the investment, and to the business interests as well.
Right, makes sense. So what I've understood from that is basically you folks have a commitment to people being able to join the Hong Kong kind of economy and monetary system and being able to leave efficiently from that monetary system at their discretion. Mm-hmm. So the amount of limitations, capital controls, even in crisis situations like 2008, is much lower. And so putting capital into the Hong Kong system is less risky because you always have the option to leave, basically.
Indeed.
Which is one of the things that makes Hong Kong this center. And that kind of idea will, in your view, continue for digital assets, and that people will be able to legally join and legally leave the digital asset system at their discretion according to their decisions, right? So that is a powerful tool that you can immediately leave a system or join the system as you want. Then I heard something very interesting about the issuance of licenses, both the virtual banks and there's already been you call them virtual assets, but we call them cryptocurrencies or digital assets, but it's all the same thing. But basically now there are cryptocurrency or digital asset licenses that you folks have given out to a few people to operate licensed Hong Kong digital asset cryptocurrency exchanges.
Yes.
One of them, I think, being Hashkey, which announced and went live with that when I was there. And then the third thing that I think is also very interesting is the fact that basically Hong Kong is the gateway to mainland China value. So China has this interesting system where they basically create economic zones through which they interact with different parts of the world for trade or financial reasons. And Hong Kong is the place through which all the capital, mainland China, I think is very likely to flow through. And so the amount of capital that's rolling around in this kind of pretty flexible legal framework is also very large, right? So it's not just, hey, we have this legal framework, but we have a legal framework and a lot of capital rolling around in the legal framework. And in line with that, as an example, you already have certain digital asset ETFs that are approved by you guys and are already on exchanges and already working. And that was a simple process, more or less, and something that happened. So I think this is, this is the thing that I've taken away from my trip and from some of the things that I've seen. Back to the interest and commitment of the Hong Kong government to actually use blockchain technology as a government and as a central bank. So how is that evolving? I know there's the EHKD scheme, and then there are multiple ways to provide stablecoins to the average consumer. So what is the EHKD central bank digital currency scheme, and what are the stablecoin schemes that are going to make stablecoins available to consumers?
Sure. Well, in terms of CBDC, right, HKMA, which is our de facto central bank in Hong Kong, it announced the commencement of the e-Hong Kong dollar pilot program in May this year. Indeed, a total of 16 firms from financial, payments, technology sectors have been selected to participate in the first round of pilots for this year. The pilots will take deep dives into potential use cases in 6 categories, including full-fledged payments, programmable payments, offline payments, tokenized deposits, settlement of Web3 transactions, and settlement of tokenized assets as well. This pilot program is actually a key component of Rail 2 under the HKMA's 3-rail approach in paving the way for the possible implementation of the retail CBDC in Hong Kong. Under the pilot program, the HKMA will conduct a series of pilots in close collaboration with various stakeholders to examine the use cases I mentioned early on, as well as the potential implementation and design issues related to HK dollar. So throughout that process, we will continue to keep hearing or receiving the feedback from the industry as well to refine our approach for the possible implementation of e-Hong Kong dollar in the future. And on stablecoins, actually, we did the consultation last year already about putting together a stablecoin regulatory regime. And then we announced our consultation conclusion in January this year. So now we are drafting the related regulatory wordings or so, and we are targeting to roll out and implement such regulatory regime sometime next year. In fact, we also issued a paper to set out the scope that set out the entities involved in the key activities to be regulated, including governance, issuance, stabilize, and doing wallet business using stable coins, which will require a license in Hong Kong. So you can see that when we roll out any new regulations, it won't be just a flip-flop or won't be a very short period of time. We did a consultation last year. We gather more feedback, issue a conclusion this year. We go through our legislative process, and hopefully next year will be implemented so that the market will always have enough time to adapt to the new regulation and have enough time to give us feedback for consideration beforehand.
Right, makes sense. So there's actually two schemes, from what I've seen, two models. One model is, let's make a central bank digital currency to settle with banks, and that's what EHKD seems like it is. It's a way for banks to have a unit of account with the central bank in an efficient way. Mm-hmm. And then there's also appetite to create some kind of set of privately issued stable coins that are governmentally accepted as a way for the average consumer, so for the average retail consumer, to basically utilize stable coins in a legally accepted way, which means that all the applications, all the banks, everybody can now transact in stable coins without any legal concerns. And there can actually be multiple stablecoin issuers, both private entities and banks, which is one of the things that I find kind of fascinating, because it's not exactly a replication, but it's kind of almost an evolution of the model that I see there now, where literally you can go in Hong Kong and get 3 different $20 bills issued by 3 different private entities. And that's a pretty unique and amazing thing, once again created by this kind of legal flexibility. So I think that that's going to be quite an interesting and useful thing for people to adopt stable coins and the Hong Kong dollar stable coins specifically, because that is in a way something that is used for trade and is used for transactions in Hong Kong and also outside of Hong Kong. And so I think from what I've seen, part of the logic of these things is that you can make a very transferable Hong Kong dollar that can be used both among banks and among consumers and Web3 applications. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty interesting. So I think from my recent trip to Hong Kong, I've seen, and Asia in general, I've seen a lot of really great innovations, and I've seen people like Joseph at very senior levels pushing the limits of what's possible to create clarity and create an environment where you can generate legally accepted, legally binding digital assets and cryptocurrencies in a way that makes banks comfortable enough to transact with each other in digital assets and cryptocurrencies, and also in a way in that Web3 startups and DeFi companies can be comfortable transacting with consumers, with each other, and very importantly, in my opinion, also with banks who have this huge amount of capital in Hong Kong. So I think in many ways it's an attractive step forward. I think it's a picture of how the world can look once it becomes clear that Web3 and cryptocurrencies and blockchains and digital assets are the way that the financial world will evolve. And so there's definitely a need for this type of clarity and legally binding clear standards about this is how you deal with a cryptocurrency, this is how you deal with a digital asset, this is how a bank can issue a green bond, this is how a private entity can issue a stable coin and transact with others. And my expectation is that I think we'll see more of this from Hong Kong, and we'll see more clarity for people building the applications and also those that want to do these transactions with banks.
Yeah, indeed. With our business-friendly environment, our strengths in traditional finance, and our commitment to the digital asset industry, as demonstrated by our policies and what we have done over the years, we do welcome digital asset companies to come to Hong Kong, use our platform to start up or scale up your business, well, I'm a man in tie and suit, so I can only talk about the policy framework and regulations. But I do think that seeing is believing. So I would love to invite you to come to Hong Kong, see by yourself, and talk to the ecosystem in town. And in fact, we'll have our upcoming FinTech Week in October 30 to 5th of November. So please take a chance to come over and take a look by yourself and explore business opportunities with us together.
Sounds good. Thank you very much, Joseph, for sharing your thoughtful, insightful, very well-prepared views on how things have evolved so far and where they're going and the interests that you folks have in it. I think it's very clear. And I really appreciate your commitment to Web3 and interest in allowing digital assets and cryptocurrencies to be a widely used framework for how the financial world works. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me here today. Thank you. My pleasure.